Hello y'all, what's up skrunks and monks? I'm just going to talk about Dante Alighieri. These have deformed. I was supposed to do a book review, but I feel like I have stupid amount of information on this man to the point where it's like I need to get it out. So I'm going to talk about, starting with his letters, which are coming from his exile, and right before his exile, which essentially, right before it was on a May Day celebration, there was a scuffle between the neighborhoods in Florence and his ops, Corso Donati, which is his in-law. Unfortunately, he had the worst in-laws I've ever seen in history. And his in-law, Corso, his cousin-in-law, I think, decided to disrupt the scene, and so he and his men had to go in and stop them. And yes, I'm doing my makeup, but anyways. And so they eventually captured these two sons. This is a later reference in the Inferno. It's a bunch of sons and their dad and some others, and so they were in prison to the point, and their punishment was starvation to the point where it deformed into cannibalism. So I really wrote that in the Inferno. Because it was such a betrayal, and I feel like it could have been in violence, but no, I feel like the whole thing was bad. And then with Dante, and when it's coming to war, so there was two factions called the Guelphs, the White Guelphs and the Black Guelphs, or the Ghibellines. And anyways, what happened was Florence is the pocketbook to the Papal States, and so the neighborhoods of Florence alongside the Holy Roman Empire in France were fighting for who would own Florence, because there's the pocketbook. And so that broke out with a bunch of neighbors, with France showing up with the Black Welsh, who were the evil people, because they wanted to oppress women, and they eventually did, started oppressing people and the women of Florence. And so that's done. I think I got my face beat. And so the White Girls, the liberals, they were fighting them for a couple of years. I think Dante was about 18 to 35 when the war kept going on until he got exiled. And so they would fight each other for territory, and try to solve little petty problems, but those petty problems could break out. This was not Nella. It was another woman. It was she's on the moon. She's what the hell was sorry, cannot remember Forrest Donati's sister's name, but she got kidnapped by her brother Corso, and so that's what I'm talking about. It's people get really harmed. There was one knight that got stabbed, and he was in a swamp and he got stabbed by an assassin. I read a poem about him. Everyone's on the top of my head. Jacopo di Castrofano. That was the guy who got stabbed, and it was not Nella. It was another woman that no, it's not Francesca. That's the lady who that was also not good. She got kidnapped by her brother. So they're all fighting, and then Dante gets involved in the White Guelphs. Unfortunately, he's married to the Black Guelphs via his wife Gemma. And so they're fighting until Dante decides to go to Rome do diplomacy, and Corso Donati and his men, alongside his brother Forrest, decide to go and trample Florence, and they take it over, and they're like, you can come back if you pay your taxes. Also, Dante's also really bad money, but he doesn't, and he's sentenced to death with his teenage kids. They gay, they just go in banishment. Dante's like poor for like the rest of his life. He feels like he is biting off the favors of like noble people, you know. Eventually, I think he eventually like dies in Ravenna and over malaria, and it's never not funny. The guy who wrote about the Inferno got a fever, so that's like Dante's war aspect. He covers it so much better in like the Inferno. If you want him to be angry, Inferno's good. Okay, so about the Divine Comedy, I'm just yapping about Dante now. I like it a lot because it's a process of healing. He's been through war. Dante is more of a soldier to me than anything else. He's been through war. He's gained through the pain. Purgatory, he's halfway there. Finally, Paradiso, he's let go of all the pain. And I think that is so beautiful. In Vita Nuova, it's kind of like that. The same process goes through Convivio, but it's more of a debate of how to get more virtuous. And I think that's really the formation of Beatrice, because it talks about Lady Virtue. So Dante has been writing since he started counting his early years in Vita Nuova when he was 35. So he was 35. All this big pieces of literature, Convivio, Question Between Land and Sea, those big works were like when he was in 30, so he was like pre-exile, exile. So he has a lot of time, and so eventually, I think in his 40s and 50s, he collected all this knowledge and all these ideas, and definitely a huge inspiration from Virgil, and he made it into the Divine Comedy. And I think I can kind of see Virgil writing about Aeneas, who was an exiled hero, and Aeneas, I wouldn't say has that much character development in the Aeneid, but I get the premise. What else? Oh yeah, romance. I'm always here talking about romance. I'm mad, as always. The thing is, I'm like a good person. I like to think I'm that. So I don't like him and Gemma. Not him and Gemma, him and Beatrice, because like they were both married. I like him and Gemma. She deserves so much more. She had a terrible family, and her husband abandoned her. Like, good grief, give her something. Like, I feel like she's so underrated. And she got all her stuff back when he got exiled. She died in a nunnery, and I feel like Gemma needs her husband more than he needs Beatrice, because they were an actual couple. Beatrice was his neighbor. She met him actually a couple of times. People say they met once and twice. No, they knew each other. They saw each other at parties, and Dante would always have a mental breakdown. And so that's why I'm like, oh man, that's not good. He would ruin parties. He would faint and cry and like wake up from bad dreams in the middle of like a celebration. I'm like, no, that's not good. So I feel like him and Gemma are a better couple. And if anyone wants to ship anyone, I feel like I recommend this Statius and Virgil in Purgatory. Virgil's queer. I'm not quite sure about Statius, but how they get along in the story are like two dads. And it says my opinion on the bromance. And the romance. I like how it's so good. I never like romance in stories, but I like how Beatrice is not like romantic at all. She's more like a teacher, and I think that comes from Lady Virtue being a constant thing in Convivio. What else? So that's like my favorite things about Dante. He's also it's hard. He's easier to digest than say Savonarola, but he's also a flawed person. Like I don't like how we're not done. Some people do recognize, and I do appreciate them. But Dante is old, and so he's really close-minded. Can I say it? Can I say it? Is racist and Islamophobic, and you're like, oh, it's of his time. I'm like, yeah. But no matter the time, the situation, the world, you still can choose kindness. I'm just saying. I'm sorry. I would get a Dante tattoo, like a quote, but I can't get that off my conscience that he like put like Muhammad in hell. You know, I can't do that. There's just something. I think if I'm quoting this right, and I hope I am. I think one time he was talking about light, virtue in Paradiso, and he said, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said at one point, it's like, the sun does not turn on the Jews because they don't believe in Christ. I'm like, Alighieri, we cannot be doing this. That's not professional. So, you know, my conscience is never fully clear with Renaissance men. Like, I love Machiavelli, but he's terrible to women. You know, it's like the sad thing, and I don't know if I should talk about the romantic, the Dolce Stil Nova. Okay, so now I will. Dolce Stil Nova is his style because the Crusaders from the Arab world brought him to Sicily some years later. Boom, it's in Florence, and everyone's like, I don't care about Latin, let's speak in the vulgar tongue. He has a book about that. And so everyone's speaking, and it's like, let's like love poetry, and so, you know, like courtly love is going on both in Italy and in England. He referenced Lancelot. And so I understand, you know, the courtly love with Beatrice Portinari. I'm still pretty jaded, and I don't think it's cool. Man needs to be faithful, but I understand the context of the courtly love. It gets bad. Like, Petrarch is a creepy person. I'm tired of denying it, man. Because they took it to extremes for a point where I think Petrarch was like stalking Laura for like 17 years or whatever. Because of courtly love and rejection. I'm like, y'all need to calm down. So, Dolce Stil Nova. There are good writers in it. Oh yeah, Guido Contavolti. Guido Contavolti, I feel morally is the best. He tried to kill Corso Donati, which is pretty good, considering he was the tyrant of Mantua and kidnapped his sister, you know? And exiled Dante. That's pretty good. So, Guido getting that, and he's responsible, dude. I think there's like a poem about Guido, and he asked to consent to like hang out with a shepherd girl. Like, thank the Lord. These are bare minimum. So, anyways, that's Dante. Dante Alighieri is a good person and a bad person all at once. He has a lot of issues, but he tries to improve them, minus his racism. There's no improvement there. He's old. What can I say? He's a complicated man.